Hi, everybody. This is Dixon,
And I'm Jose.
and welcome to the September 2022 episode of Southwest Side Stories. We've got a really good episode today. We're talking to a group of folks from United Educators for Justice, which is organizing to try to win improvements in Chicago's charter schools. These are educators within the Acero network of charter schools here in Chicago. And they won an important victory stemming from a historic 2018 charter school strike. Jose, you're going to be leading this conversation. What are you interested in learning?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really exciting, to hear about a charter school union coming about. So hearing the details about how they were able to pull off a strike in 2018 and how, where the union's at now with the rest of the teacher union ecosystem. There have been strikes in Ohio, and Chicago is no stranger to teacher strikes themselves. So how they're fitting into all that and just hearing the details, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to hear for sure. And the 2018 strike, it was a historic strike, the first ever charter school strike in the United States. And it happened in schools across the Southwest side, across the city. Chicago, of course, has plenty of charter schools, but it was really interesting to see this action taking place. And I remember there was a photo in the New York Times of the picket line outside of the Acero School in Archer Heights, which is pretty close to where I live, within walking distance. So I think this is sort of an underappreciated story, that this really was a historic strike and a historic victory. And much of it took place right here on the Southwest side.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's undersold in the media because it's also kind of indicating how naturally teachers' unions have come about throughout history as a profession that takes a lot of studying. In and of itself, the simplification of the job of teaching and education. To have kind of a rotating workforce was why teachers unions formed in the first place, and it's my understanding why this charter school union came about. So I'm looking forward to hearing charter school teachers following in the same footsteps that previous educators of America has, and forming their union.
Hi, I'm Caroline Rutherford. I am a visual arts teacher at Marquez Elementary School, which is an Acero school, and I am the chair of the Acero Council. There's 15 unionized schools in the Acero Council, and then I'm also the vice chair of the Charter Division. We have about 35 schools that are unionized in the Charter Division, 13 different councils. Bethany?
Yeah, hi, I'm Bethany Rouke. I teach second grade at Acero's Tamayo campus, which is on 51st in California. And I am the vice chair of elementary schools. Daniria?
Hey, I'm Daniria Dukes. I am the vice president for PSRPs for UEJ. I am also on the bargaining team for PSRPs, as well as my campus, Daniel Zazumbo, and I am also a DL apprentice.
I started off working at a school here in Chicago as a PSRP, so I'm really grateful to the people that fight for us, on these bargaining committees. And to that end, you're all teachers, and thank you so much for popcorning out on your own, showing those school skills. You created this charter school council, and it's a testament to the union history and of Chicago, but also the so-ed equity of teachers coming together to organize for their needs. It's my understanding that you were able to get a contract after a 2018 strike that you're in the midst of renegotiating. Caroline, if you kind of want to start with take us through that and share out as we go forward.
Sure. So we actually started I've been working at Marquez since 2010, and we started unionizing back in 2012. There was an organizing effort. We landed our first contract in 2013. It was 3 years long, and then 2016 was our second contract. We almost went on strike in 2016, but we settled at about 3, 4 in the morning, something like that. So we were able to go to school, and everything was great, ish. And then in 2018, we had contract negotiations again. In those contract negotiations, we were really fighting for a lot of things that were going to improve our buildings and our school communities. We were fighting for sanctuary schools and sanctuary employers in all of our schools. We were also fighting for smaller class sizes, which is a really big deal for our kids. When I started, they were UNO charter school, and then they became UCSN, and then they became Acero. And we had 32 students in all of our elementary schools, which is a lot. So we were really pushing for 28 as a cap to our class size to give more, one-on-one supports to our students. We were able to get our class size down to 30. So that was a huge win for us in 2018. We did go on strike for 4 days. We were the first unionized charter in the entire nation to go on strike. So that was a pretty big deal. And it was a lot of organizing. There was a lot of support from the community, from the parents, from some of the aldermen in the area. And so after 4 days of being on strike, we were able to win some really amazing things for our students and our educators.
2018 being the first charter, I think that was in the world, Caroline, to go on strike. This was our third contract, and it was our first contract as Acero schools. And this was also the first contract where we actually had 2 PSRPs at the bargaining table. So you got to know there's strength in numbers, right? So being able to get I'm not saying PSRPs had wins in the first 2 contracts, but compared to the third one, those were nothing. I mean, able to get a salary scale based on the amount of education, getting paid to substitute teach. It's only going to get better from here, but that was really big for us. I will say that. I mean, all the time and energy and effort, because we bargained that contract literally for 11 and a half months. So it was, I mean, if we had to go back, I think we'd all do it all over again if we had to. I guess we would.
We are right now, Dee.
well, yeah, but I mean, like that, like all that we put into that one, it would be done. Yeah.
Yeah, we for the PSRPs, the salary schedule was huge. The substitute teaching was huge. Also, the protections on being able to say no to substitute teaching, because a lot of our apprentices or PSRPs are pulled all of the time, and so they can actually say no. I have a job to serve these students, and so they can, deny that. And then getting classroom aides or PSRPs in all of our kindergarten classrooms was a really big win too. That go with the students for the entire day, because there are a lot of our kindergarten students haven't been in school before, and so this is their first experience, and to have 2 adults with them at all times is essential.
Like, what we're fighting for is always what's best for students. Like, it's best for young elementary students to have an assistant in the classroom, to support them, transitioning throughout the day, organizing their materials, things like that. We also know that smaller class sizes are best for students. We actually calculated out how much time in our day we have and like how much time we can spend per student. And like, when you drop down those student loads, you can spend a lot more time with kids. So all the things that we're fighting for are what's best for students in the end. And I think because we, like, teachers and the PSRPs are the ones that are interacting with parents the most, like we see them every day at arrival, dismissal, they know that we have their child's best interest in hand. And that's why they were so supportive in 2018.
Yeah, I also think, when charter schools really came about back, in the early 2000s, they were by design supposed to be these innovative, incubative schools that would be better than the public sector schools. And now, 10, 15 years later, we're looking at all the data, and the data has shown that they aren't actually better than the public schools or the district schools. And what they were doing as like their incubation, their secret sauce that they claimed they had, was really packing as many students into a classroom with as few resources possible, young teachers, not paying them well enough. And so it was a huge disservice to students. And what we've done is we've, unionized and tried to raise up these industry standards across the city. We've really started to push them in the direction of being more like the district, but also trying to make the district better as well. This is what we've seen. We look at what's happening in like the suburbs, these well-funded schools, and they have all these resources. They have these amazing arts programs. They have amazing sports programs. They have counselors and social workers and nurses and all of these resources for our kids. But when you look throughout the city at the charter and the district, they don't have those same things. And so it's just this huge disservice to our students in the city who are largely Black and brown communities. And so that we need to flip that. We need to give the same resources that we're giving to our affluent communities to our low-income communities, if we're going to improve the education across the city of Chicago, not just in the charters, but also in the district. And that's what we're trying to do with this campaign. It's not just a contract campaign for Acero. All the 13 councils that are unionized are negotiating their contract at the same time. And then in a year and a half, the district's going to be working on negotiating theirs. So this is a huge, like phase one of a huge, large citywide campaign for all of our communities. And so we're really, really trying to improve those resources. And they have a lot of money to do that right now. We think that there should be more money from the state and the federal government put into education, 100%. But they have a lot of money to do that right now. They're just not putting those resources in the classroom.
We also talk about sustainability a lot with this profession because it is, has, especially in the charter network, there was really high turnover rates. Like we had huge turnover. They would hire really young teachers that would last a year or two, and then they would either go to CPS and get paid more, or they'd go out to the suburban districts and get paid a lot more and have a much more sustainable environment. And first year teachers, they're amazing, especially now. Like they're the most amazing humans in the world. But there is an expertise that comes with years of experience, and getting teachers with that experience to stay and like mentor new teachers and stuff like that is vital for elevating the education level of these students and filling the gaps that we see in low income communities or communities of non-native English speakers. So getting good teachers to stay is, a big future goal as well.
It just seems like those roles, those paraprofessional roles, are even less sustainable in a school ecosystem, yet they're even just as vital to keep systems running efficiently and with consistency. And yet those are the workers sometimes with the most precarious situations and the most to lose. And this is a great endeavor that you guys are taking on. But how has it been retaining membership and
Well, I'd say as far as the PSRPs being our DL classroom assistants, our IT staff, our clerks, as well as our kinder assistants. I'd say this last contract, like we said before, the salary scale, because we are a charter who have quite a few PSRPs with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees. So with that salary scale, they're kind of being paid accordingly now. So that's helped with sustainment a lot, as well as getting paid to substitute teach, getting paid for having a child with you during your lunch, getting paid for miss prep. Those things have helped us out a lot. And so I think that like it's been not easy sustaining, but they're a lot more willing to take on different tasks and do more things now that they're being paid accordingly more or less, not accordingly, because there's always room for more, but in comparison to like other charters in the public sector, it's definitely a difference with the pay, but there's also a difference with the expectations as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, in 2018, we were able to create that salary schedule for our PSRPs, and then in 19, the district they had huge wins and gains, and so we're sort of playing catch up right now to try to match where the district is, so that people, because I understand, right? You want to buy a house and raise a family, and so if you can get paid more for doing the same job somewhere else, it makes sense to do that, and so we want to uplift those industry standards across the city. But I also, one of the things you talked about, it's not even just the sustainability, it's the stability, right? Is that in the special education world, with the way that they do it at Acero, which is super problematic, is that every year in April, they give us our allocations for our special education. And our principals and administrators at the school level have to fight for like months. About 3 or 4 months, they have to go through this process called the appeal process. So they'll give us how many special education teachers and how many special education apprentices we're allowed to have at our school. And it's almost always a reduction from the previous year. And so then our administrators go through and they like beg and plead, and they put all this data together and this information about how we can actually function and give all the supports that we need to our students. And then sometime in July or August, Acero central office will come back to us and say, okay, you can keep those positions. Meanwhile, those positions have been cut. Those members have been laid off. They've been moved to a different campus. They found another job. And so we're left with these vacancies every single year. And so the way that they structure the stability of that position is detrimental to our students. And so that's something that we're also trying to combat with these contract negotiations, is how can we secure those positions at each of our campuses?
This is the fourth contract, right? We started amongst each other maybe about April or May, internal. And we started meeting with Acero management this past July. But keep in mind, we finalized the 2018 contract December 2018. We look up maybe a year later, there's COVID. Then we've done what, 3 MOUs?
5.
5 safety, oh man, 5 safety MOUs since then. So technically, we have been bargaining straight for about over 4, almost 5 years now. So we're pretty much pros at this. Like, so we got it, but it's like everything is coming at once. So now we've got the safety unlocked, but then it's still an open conversation because there's the COVID, then there's the monkeypox, and every other day there's something new coming up. So that's still an open conversation in addition to us currently bargaining this new contract.
Yeah, Jesse Sharkey would like to joke that, I mean, it's not a joke, that we've been in a constant negotiating season for 5 years, and that's 100% accurate. And the 3 of us also are full-time teachers and educators. So we haven't seen a summer or winter or spring break in a minute, but we do this because we love it. And it's the right thing to do. We love our students. We love our staff. And so we're going to keep doing it until it gets better.
Okay, I thought that was a really good conversation with Carolyn and Bethany and Daniria about their experience and the victories that they've won for people working in charter schools in Chicago and students attending school within the Acero network. And one of the things I thought was really interesting was, this notion of union victories rippling out throughout the community. So there are victories for workers within the Acero network and students and parents for sure, but they also have beneficial ripple effects within CPS, and they have beneficial ripple effects for working people in the community and in Chicago in general. So this notion that you're raising standards across the board, most directly with the employer that you're striking against, but also for everybody else within the community as well. I thought it was definitely, interesting to hear that and to remember that.
Yeah, I mean, aside from all the courage that it took to take on these endeavors, it's also just really, really mentally taxing to be in it for the long haul the way they have been. Which is why I was just really touched by how much solidarity and how much community support it was required for them to formally become a union and enter within the union ecosystem. But now with their contract coming up, they were able to win this contract because of the 2018 strike, and having a formal contract that's better tends to mean that a union will have to either do a strike or at least posture that they're able to do a strike, which will require a lot more community support. So I think that really timely episode, for back to school, and I'm hoping that the Southwest communities that were in support in 2018 remember that their teachers are back out there needing their help again.